There is a lot going on here. Really what we're witnessing is this tension. We're now entering into the conflict passages that will lead to the passion of the Lord. But the tension, while it might take the immediate form of Jesus versus the Jewish leaders or the Jews, it really is the tension between the divine heart and the human heart. And so there's this, on the one side, the generosity of God. He's just promising mercy. He's going to give them compassion. He's offering them life. He's going to make a covenant of himself. And then you have the human heart, which is just looking for any way that they can get Jesus, and they're trying to trip him up, and they're testing him, and they're accusing him, and they're gonna close the ranks around him, and so the tension builds, right? So let's unpack that a little bit. To understand in the immediate sense what's going on in John, we have to retranslate where it says Jesus answered the Jews. That's no. Everybody here is Jew. Jesus is Jewish. So his disciples are Jewish. The religious leaders are Jewish. Jesus is not answering the Jews. He's answering the Judeans. Jesus is from Galilee. That's like the Kentucky of the Jewish world. The countryside, maybe the less educated and the not so highly respected. And the Judeans are like the Manhattans of the Jewish world. They are the highly educated. They all went to, New York State University or whatever. And so when he comes in here and starts doing odd things on the Sabbath and talking about his father, the Manhattan Judeans, who esteem themselves very highly, are accusing him. And when he responds to them, they take offense because he's the Kentucky Jew. Who do you think you are? So that's kind of what's happening here. In Isaiah, though, in the generosity of God that's going to spill into this gospel, God promises his people not only consolation, but he says to them that he says, I have kept you and given you as a covenant to the people. And he's talking to the Messiah that's to come. So to the Messiah, he says, I have given you as a covenant. And that's important because he's not saying, I will make a covenant. You are the covenant and I give you to them. And Jesus will live this out when he's ultimately squeezed to death, when he gives the Eucharist and he says, this is the covenant of my blood. And the blood is him. He is the covenant, the new covenant. And that is given over in the Eucharist, which is his death and his resurrection. So the Manhattan Jews are squeezing in around him. And Jesus, because of that, is becoming everything that God has promised, the manifest expression of divine compassion, which is going to burst forward in the Eucharist. And the Eucharist has as its ultimate fruit life. And so thematically, in this entire gospel passage, Jesus says the word life like 100 times. For just as the Father raises the dead and gives life, so also the Son gives life to whomever he wishes. And he's going to prove that because not long after this, he's going to call Lazarus out of the tomb. Whoever hears the gospel will be raised to life. And the gospel in the flesh of Jesus Christ stands outside of Lazarus' tomb and calls him by name, and he comes out. He can do this. And he's ultimately going to do this on the last day when all of us are called by name, and we will rise to the resurrection of the life or eternal condemnation. But he wants all of us to live. He wants us to live. So as they are planning and plotting his death, and they're building their case and their argument against him, he is actually using their argument to build the case for them to find life and to live. So what does that mean for us now? This is where we come before God at his altar, where the Eucharist will be distributed and received, and ask him to bring this dead person to the fullness of life. Proclaim the gospel to my heart. Call me forward into your life, that where you are, I may always be, and we can be together forever.